Hello, so I felt like it was time for another little chatty ramble, or as I like to call them, chambles. I still don't have a theme tune for the chambles, and so I didn't look at the comments before because I did ask last time if any creatives out there wanted a little task and wanted to write me a jingle, or as my friend called it, a chingle. Brilliant. A chingle for the chamble. So yeah, this is my plea for any musicians out there who'd like to submit a chingle for the chamble, and I could perhaps choose one, because mine so far at the moment is simply this: chatty ramble, chatty ramble, or chamble. It's not great, is it? I mean, it's, light and jolly and on brand, but so feel free to submit your jingles. That would be delightful, and if that would alleviate any stress or boredom for you, then more's the better. Couldn't find another hat, because it seems that one of the themes of the chambles is, what am I going to wear on my head? I will get more creative as the days go by. Today I've simply put a cap on backwards. Hope you like. Don't know what that was. So I keep looking down here because I've got my laptop out, because I've just read an article and I'd like to read it out to you, if I may. Well, you've got no choice because you're not here to say no. As you know, my heart is very much with what I want to raise awareness of in this time is of people who suffer with chronic illness. If you're not aware of this, then you clearly haven't listened to the other chambles. Rude. Go back and do so, please. That's an order. Do what you like. We must all get through this time how we need to. No judgment here. So yeah, my focus has been very much on those who were chronically ill, because they were chronically ill before the lockdown, and they're going to be chronically ill after the lockdown, and they're going to be in their own lockdown. They're going to remain housebound, they're going to remain isolated, potentially fearful, with no end date to their situation, missing all that they want to do in their life. All the things that you're suffering in lockdown is a daily issue for people with chronic illness. And I think the reason I'm talking about it is because in this time, what I've become aware of is everybody has a particular heart or a particular passion or a particular desire for change in different areas. And there's so much that needs to change. This time is just really heightening all the problems in the world. The issues that were already there are becoming worse and more significant, and people want to change it ever more. You could list countless things, from domestic abuse is now in the foreground of people's minds, because of course people are literally trapped with abusers. The elderly being vulnerable and isolated and alone is more heightened. Economic inequality is more heightened, because there are some people for whom lockdown is relatively easy and they have access to essential needs, from food to connection to work, and there are others for whom lockdown might mean a serious life threat, as they can't find the essentials that they need. Mental health is going to be a problem, and it's going to be a problem long after the pandemic, because the trauma caused by it will have an effect. So everything, I'm going to list all the problems in the world, everything is heightened, and I'm made aware of. And I think I was going to use the word exciting in this time, but why not? There's the potential for good amongst it all. What's exciting about this time is that a lot of people are being fueled and made aware of what makes them really angry, in a good way, in a galvanising way, what they really want to change. So we're all sort of listening to what speaks to us and what we want to make awareness of, because we can't individually we can't solve the world's problem. We can't solve inequality and illness and mental health problems and abuse and unkindness, and we can't do that. But what we can do is all start to be kinder and listen to how we can help. Or if you're someone who can't help and needs help, then please say that you need help and ask for our help, because being kind and helping and loving people is what gives humans the greatest pleasure. And this is the thing that actually, I'm being like a politician now. This is the thing, I started doing that. Gosh, that was scary, but maybe that's just the passion coming out. But the thing is, you see, but it's true that helping and giving and loving is what makes a human happy. So therefore, if you need help, please give us the opportunity to love you and do something for you that will make us happy. So, yeah, as ever, can't remember what I was saying before that, but yeah, we're each being made aware of things that perhaps we weren't aware of before, that we were as passionate about, or become more aware of, and realise how we can make changes and what changes need to happen. And that makes us happy, and obviously makes the recipient happy. And yes, I was saying that we can't change the world on our own, but if we all act in a bit more kindness and act in a bit more love, knowing that that's what makes us happy and that's what our true purpose is as a human being, then I think we will start to melt the hearts of the people who do suffer from anger and do bully and do troll and do want to be powerful and wealthy and run a corporation not effectively and not for other people. Because all those people are most likely suffering themselves. They're most likely operating from some unresolved trauma, as Richard Rohr, I'm constantly quoting on these Chamble, says, if pain is not transformed, it's transmitted. So we can't change how people operate, we're not in control of that, but if we do an act of kindness each day, then we not only feel good about ourselves, but hopefully we start making people aware that that is the way to operate. And yeah, I do think yesterday on Twitter I became really sad and quite angry by the fact that people are still being bullied and trolled, and there are really angry and abusive tweets going on. Because I thought, in this time, are we not still uniting? Are we not putting love and kindness at the top of things? And of course people are still going to be angry, because, as I say, most likely they're in pain themselves. So you can't control what anyone says, you can't police them, they're allowed to be freedom of speech, they're allowed to be furious, they're allowed to be vile, but we can control how we respond. And it is our responsibility to deal with how they affect us. And I've noticed on the times where I have responded to someone who said something to me that was, I was going to say hurtful, but I've found ways to deal with it. I don't get hurt by it personally, but could have been hurtful. It was just sort of quite abusive, an abuse of a human's rights. And the times where I have replied and just sort of killed with kindness, as the expression goes, they have melted and they've actually ended up apologising. And thank you to the Mirror recently, who apologised to me personally and reprinted a story that wasn't true. They said that I'd hiked my prices on Cameo. You can go to cameo.com to buy gifts or messages for yourself from various people who do video messages for you. Anyway, have a look at it. But I put up my price because I was being overwhelmed by requests and I didn't have the time to do them. And I thought, oh, hang on, if people are using this time to buy these things as gifts for people, then I'd rather hike my price, because then I'll earn more money to give away to charity. But a lot of people were abusing and saying that I was just cashing in on lockdown and all that stuff. And I just wanted to, sometimes you want to defend yourself, sometimes you let things go and people write things about you, but And I was really grateful to the Mirror. They not only reprinted that I was doing it for charity, for chronic illness, 2 chronic illness charities, but they also apologised to me. So yeah, I think just the more we let go of what we're angry about and other people's anger and are kind to them, then they do kind of melt. Because ultimately, I really do believe that most of those people are sort of lacking an inherent love and self-worth themselves. And I don't think in a human being people actually want to or like being mean. I think it's filling a gap, and usually that gap is not feeling loved. That's my feeling. So yes, there's so much wrong with the world, but there's so much right with it as well. And love and kindness outweighs all, and that's what we want to be remembered for as well. So anyway, that's just my feeling, because I was thinking about how stirred and passionate I am. I'm doing the... What's this? It's lucky I'm not a politician. I'd be on a podium going, I feel stirred and passionate, everybody. I've gone very camp with excitement. Yeah, I was thinking I'm so stirred and passionate about I need sort of gymnast ribbons for that. If I was any good at editing, I'd do a little firework display from this, but I can't be asked. Yeah, I was kind of excited by my passion to raise awareness for chronic illness, and thinking, oh, there's going to be loads of people stirred and passionate by various things, and change may happen. I also feel very stirred and passionate about corporate responsibility, corporate irresponsibility, the fact that the power and wealth lies in the hands of so few. I watched a film called Dark Waters yesterday with Mark Ruffalo, Mark Ruffalo, and it was just shocking. I just wasn't, when you watch a film that's based on a true story about corporate greed and not taking civil responsibility, and the damage in this case that it did. I mean, I won't go into the whole film. You could Google the synopsis. Is based on a true story. Sorry, I've got an itchy rib area. Delightful, itchy nose, itchy. I've probably got fleas. Yeah, I was so angry about that. I just thought, what is wrong with the world? There are a few people who are gunning for such power and wealth, and to what end, you know? Can't take it with you, can you? Is that really how you want to be remembered? So I do believe I'm back to thinking it's filling a gap, you know, it's filling a gap of lack of self-worth. That wasn't me referring to my breasts. So that's taken me 13 minutes and 36 seconds to basically say, hi, I'm wearing a hat backwards and I'm going to read you an article. This is by, oh, where's her name gone? I'm getting to the stage where I definitely need glasses. I'm going to have to do the zoom in a bit, there we go, to be able to read it. But the website is called A Life Hidden, for anyone who's suffering from chronic illness. I can't see her name anywhere. Oh well, I'll find it and put it in the thing that you wrote, the preview. So, life in lockdown, what matters when all is lost? On the eve of 2020, in New Year reflections, I looked back on a difficult 2019 and asked, what might I be called upon to face this year? I could not have imagined what lay ahead, not only for me, but for the entire world. Living through the coronavirus pandemic is both a global and deeply personal experience. The world is afraid. With many countries now in lockdown, humanity is collectively facing the loss of freedom to move, the loss of freedom to plan, the loss of freedom simply to not be afraid. My individual story sits somewhere among billions of others. There are people who will remember these months as the very worst time of their lives, when they fell seriously ill or faced the loss of a loved one, perhaps even both. There are families forced apart when they need one another most, families forced together when that proximity is unsafe, and people with no one in the world now entirely alone. There are frontline medical staff risking their lives to care for those who are ill, and other essential workers daily facing a world that feels threatening. Suddenly aware that I'm reading this with a cap backwards. Just felt strange. Right, settle down. Back onto the article. It's beautiful. I'm just putting a little bit of levity in there. Among all the stories that have rightly been told, one group largely overlooked are those with existing long-term chronic illnesses. What is a pandemic like when being housebound and isolated is your norm, when freedom is something that was lost long ago? Do many years of experience make the current situation easier or harder to bear? In my long years of illness, I have often wished for the world to stop turning, for time to stand still and for everyone to wait for me. I think that is just such an important point for people with chronic illness, because when you become housebound, and as I say, my story in this is not relevant right now because the coronavirus and those really struggling is essentially the point, and the people with chronic illness in this instance. And I do not want to be a headline for any of my personal experiences, but I do understand that. I've had experience with that, and there's this sense that the world is carrying on and you are stuck inside and your life has turned out totally not what you expect it to be, and you're very alone, and everybody is sort of in some kind of productivity or some kind of movement, even just by the fact that they can go out for a walk. And you just long for it to just stop and just go, I just need a pause. Can time stop? And maybe I could get a bit stronger and then start again, because there's a sense of wasting your life. And right now, for those of you who haven't experienced chronic illness, you're experiencing that lockdown and the sense of disappointment over things you're missing, or desperately wanting life to get back to normal. But you're not, imagine doing that and feeling that whilst the world's going on. So just hold for a moment all your sense of loss, your sense of isolation, your difficulty, your fear, your illness if you're perhaps ill, your sadness, your frustration, your desperately wanting to get out, the things you're missing, the friends you're missing. Imagine experiencing that when everybody else is out there doing what you want to be doing. That's what it's like to live with chronic illness. She goes on. I realise now that there was comfort in knowing that life continued beyond my four walls. The steady rhythm of normal activity provided a point of stability against which my own turmoil could rest. Okay, well that's another side to it, that for her, she did used to wish the world to stop turning, but now she got comfort from people carrying on. I think that's a kind of developed, enlightened stage of it. I think most people sit with the former, is what I said. I've been severely ill with ME since childhood and am almost completely housebound, a state which in fact represents considerable progress. On the face of it, my life has not changed much this month. With even ordinary viruses having the potential to cause a significant relapse in my condition, I have been long practicing strict hygiene. I was well prepared for a pandemic, though the need to adopt even more stringent germ control has been a stressful and exhausting process. But even within my restricted world, there are painful losses. The treasured company of my family, in particular my small nieces, a short outing in my wheelchair. I waited a very long time to be well enough to share special moments with family and friends, or to see the outside world again. Just remember, chronically ill people become housebound and can't see the world that you miss right now in lockdown. Last summer, I wrote of the complex emotions experienced on seeing the sea for the first time in many years. My hold on normal life is fragile at the best of times. It is tough to lose the small achievements that were so hard won in the first place. Dealing with emotions is especially difficult when the limitations of illness prevent any realistic means of distraction. That is so true. You know, we all have emotions, we all have difficult emotions, but if you're not housebound, then you don't have to face them, and that's what a lot of people are dealing with right now, they're having to face. So again, just something to reflect on what the chronically ill deal with. Beyond fear, other emotions have been complex and painful. In witnessing society's response to the pandemic, I found myself reliving many difficult memories from my own almost long life incarceration. It's been hard to see the world waking up to the implications of isolation when it has been my reality for so long. There is widespread disbelief at the idea of a world without holidays, weddings and family gatherings. How can anyone survive without work, without social contact, without the liberty to travel and enjoy the open air? How is it possible to cope without seeing a partner or family or friends? Well, the chronically ill have to deal with that. That's what they live with. On a personal level, it is hard when I've lived those losses for 30 years and will likely to continue to do so for many more. There is a brutal loneliness to being shut away from the world when, in contrast to the current situation, the world continues turning without you. For me and many others in a similar situation, our pain has been long unseen and very often unacknowledged. Society has changed markedly in recent weeks. It is wonderful to see a new awareness of the need to protect the vulnerable, with hundreds of thousands of volunteers coming forward to offer their help in the UK alone. But it's hard not to compare this to the lack of support that has previously been available. Some years ago, I sought help on behalf of a fellow ME sufferer who urgently needed someone to do their shopping. I contacted several churches, charitable organisations and community groups in the area, but was unable to find anyone who would assist or could assist. Such an experience is far from unusual, and that breaks my heart really, because, and hopefully after this pandemic, we will become more community minded, we will become aware of the fact that there will be people who remain vulnerable and in need and chronically ill. And in situations that we can't ignore, because, yeah, I just think each act of kindness we do, whether it's on our heart to help somebody with a mental health problem and domestic abuse, whether it's to chat to an elderly person, even if we do it for half an hour in a week, or to get some shopping for somebody who knows chronically ill, then we're making a difference and things will change. I'm realising that I'm at 23 minutes and the article is quite long, but I'll read the last two paragraphs. When status, money and health are stripped away, one is left with a few simple truths. There is nothing more important in this world than human contact, the ability to move freely and the opportunity to live without suffering. When all is lost, what matters most are those who remain, those who hold out a hand in the darkness and say through action and word, you are not alone. Such a presence is desperately needed now, but will continue to be needed long after the pandemic has passed. If any good can be said to come from such widespread suffering, I hope it will be a lasting appreciation of what each of us has to offer, and an understanding that our society is a better, stronger place when the most vulnerable are not forgotten. You've nailed it, beautiful lady. You've absolutely nailed it. Oh, she's called Naomi. Anyway, A Life Hidden is her website, and she suffers from ME. Naomi Whittingham, she's in the UK. And she fell ill on her 13th birthday with ME. But I couldn't have said it more beautifully myself, and so I wanted to read that. Fly the fag for chronic illness, as that's where my heart is telling me to fly the flags. Perhaps I'll find flags next time. And yeah, remember to ask for help if you need it, and think about when this is all over. There's no pressure to do it now, but if you want to do it now, then great. 5 minutes a day, half an hour a week or more you can do to spread kindness in the areas that you want to, and help people, so that we get into the pattern of that, and hopefully our society will be stronger and kinder than it ever was. Take care, have a lovely weekend if you can, look for the beauty and the goodness and the fun in each day, because if you look out for it, there will be one moment, however much you're suffering. Huge, huge love. Bye.